Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. JP Morgan hit with another penalty. This time, $250 million. Let's explore. In this article from CNBC, shared by Gregory Menarino, was pointed to me by someone in the community, made us aware CNBC is posting this article about JP Morgan has to pay this $250 million penalty over weak controls in its wealth management division. You may remember I posted a video, several videos, talking about JP Morgan, one of the nation's largest banks, one of the world's largest banks, and they were hit with a very big fine, big in our eyes, for manipulating by way of spoofing precious metals. So here we'll get into this from CNBC. JP Morgan agreed on Tuesday to pay a $250 million fine after one of its U.S. regulators found a pattern of misconduct in its asset and wealth management division. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency said in a release that the New York-based bank's risk management controls were deficient and the firm couldn't avoid conflicts of interest in the business. For several years, the bank maintained a weak management and control framework for its fiduciary activities and had an insufficient audit program for and inadequate controls internally over those activities, the OCC said in a consent order. However, the bank neither admitted to or denied the accusations, and the OCC said that JP Morgan has already fixed the shortcomings that prompted the penalty. There was no mention in the order that the bank's actions had caused financial harm to its clients. We are committed to delivering best-in-class controls across our business, and we have invested significantly in and enhanced our controls platform over the last several years to address the issues identified, a spokesman for the bank said. It was the second time in 2 months that the bank agreed to pay a massive settlement to U.S. regulators over how it conducts business. In late September, as I reported on this channel, JP Morgan agreed to pay $920 million to settle investigations from 3 federal agencies over its role in the manipulation of global markets for metals and the U.S. Treasuries. JP Morgan hinted that a fine may be coming earlier this month, but neither the bank nor regulators gave much detail about the potential wrongdoing and conflicts of interest that garnered the fine. In late 2015, JP Morgan agreed to pay more than $300 million in fines after the Securities and Exchange Commission found that the bank failed to disclose that it put some clients into higher fee products created by the firm. And so a lot of this sounds like housekeeping problems, but obviously they're under the microscopic lens at this point because of what is going on. And this is a pretty big payout, and with the spoofing that was done by the precious metals trading desk for the bank. And so this is something that seems to be the latest in a pattern of problems here with JP Morgan. And but this does not necessarily mean that they are back into manipulating precious metals, as some would probably maybe think that that is the case. It could lead to that conclusion of this. But we have to be very careful, though. In fact, people are very quick, obviously, to make accusations and assumptions that that's what's going on, given where the price structure is for gold and silver. But keep in mind, look where gold is now. Gold is up. It had reached an all-time high. It's now back down, and people are saying, well, their banks are suppressing the price because of, the COMEX delivery and the like. But we haven't seen hard evidence that shows that. I know there are other channels out there that post talks about it, and it's very complex, and you can get into the minutia of detail and information, even showing data on websites that show some things, but really it's got to be clear and cut and dry, because if that was the case, certainly regulators would be on it. And hopefully they have been cracking down. The Justice Department has done a great job of cracking down on some of this stuff. And it's not to say that there's not more wrongdoing that's going on, but keep in mind, when they do this, they do it for their own profit. And they can profit when the prices go up, probably more so. One can make the argument that that be the case than when it goes down. The metals and what they are and how rare they may or may not be based off of COMEX deliveries is another thing. In a way, it's somewhat separate, because when you have COMEX deliveries, how often is that tested? When you buy an electronic form for deliveries, and as was mentioned on my channel by Belang P, people can buy into a program where they basically lend out the gold that they, quote, own by these agencies or with these banks, and they can make money off that loaned gold. And I think that's part of what's going on and why some of these big banks can make a lot of money. I just posted a video about how JP Morgan is dominating the gold market, and that's another example of how. But keep in mind that these deliveries and the numbers behind them, when you deep dive into the CME, there's a lot of complexities in there. There's a lot of stuff, when you take a look into it. And some numbers may seem alarming based off of previous numbers from previous months or the previous month of the past year, or similar months from last year, that may cause a lot of questions. Some of those questions may be legitimate, but we don't know exactly. There's what's going on behind the scenes. So I caution people that watch those videos to be very astute and take it for what it is, but make sure that there's actual proof of what's going on, and understand the information that you're digesting from those sites. And I'm speaking as somebody who is very, very cautious or very careful about any predictions I make as far as manipulation with these big banks, because it's very easy to just to blame the big banks on these things. And this is why, by some people, either jokingly or otherwise, accuse me of being somehow in with the big banks and paid by the big banks. And I just laugh that off. I think it's pretty funny. But I am one of those that does not like to toe the line, and I like to think independently, even if I receive a lot of criticism for it. I want to be able to see hard, fast evidence, proof of stuff that's going on. Make no mistake, I understand that just like there is a deep administrative state in government that is corrupt, I believe there's the same thing in the banking system too. But, and as is the case, we're going through a contentious presidential election right now, and the president's lawyers are accusing of a massive fraud. And though I do think there is a lot of fraud that's going out there, we need to see the actual evidence of it. It's got to bring born into the facts. Same thing with the big banks and with this manipulation to suppress the price of silver and gold. We've got to see it. But this is an example of how how JP Morgan has to pay this penalty because of a pattern of misconduct. And this is a real thing. They've agreed to do it. Just like the spoofing is a real thing. They've been caught. They've testified against their bosses. It's on record. I've covered it on this channel. Anything like that, I am anxious to cover, because it's showing that there is problems going on in the precious metals markets. But the problems that are going on aren't necessarily operating under what people assume they are, because of deducing logic from it, because it's all about their selfish intention to break the law to make money for themselves. How do they make money? Well, they make money by these spoofing contracts that are put out and then pulled back. These calls, these buys on silver and gold that are put in and then pulled back so they can profit from them on the way down and on the way up. And that's really what it's about. But stories like this pique our interest, and it's another tick against JP Morgan Chase for what they're doing. And I think a lot of it is because they have the hubris and knowing that they're such a big bank, and they essentially see themselves in many ways as above the law. But we are seeing the Office of the Comptroller for the New York-based risk management, office there. Well, it looks like they're under investigation, and as they should be. And these big banks and any big business, whatever, what have you, needs to operate under the law, letter of the law, and play fair. No question. But regardless of what they do, and even if they were, let's say find substantial evidence of a cabal to control the price in between either one or more big banks as a conspiracy to keep the prices down because of the COMEX, well, that means it's a buying opportunity. That's good, unless you have to cash out. And but I don't see that as the case. And from the stories I've covered in this, I've never seen any hard and fast evidence of it, other than some of these other videos that we've talked about before. But this is news, and it's worthy of coverage for sure. But I want to cover it with perspective, and I encourage you to think critically about these things, because there's a lot of information out there in social media all over the place about this, and people can take articles like this and read into them more than what they are, and with an understanding that they want to feed into their confirmation bias. And I'm one of those that even if I have a confirmation bias, I like to look at the other side that goes against the grain of it. And I think that is healthy as a critical thinker, to look beyond, your confirmation bias. So there you have it. Post your thoughts in the comment section below. JP Morgan, another $250 million. How many above $1 billion have they had to pay? And how much do they get paid? How much profits do they make? Well, I think it tells you that a lot of this probably is pocket change to them. And here's another thing, too, that tells you that whenever they're found breaking the law, I believe they should be fined, but I believe the guilty parties should be scared straight through jail time, prison time. Let them serve some time in prison as well for this. That will teach them a lesson, and I think it will scare other people that are thinking about doing this and breaking the law knowingly, especially. There are consequences beyond these fines that the banks pay, and the actual people themselves that commit the crimes need to be held responsible. They need to pay, and they need to pay with not only money, but also prison time. These penalties have got to be harsher than this. So I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.